And literally over that week, virtually all of our summer bookings that we'd had in place had cancelled. We're having to really rethink our target market during this time, and also, what that target market are prepared to spend. Because if we don't lower our prices to a level that's going to suit them, then they're not going to book. We're really trying to use this as an opportunity to learn about our business, learn about what's out there, so that we come out of the other side losing as little money as possible and learning some big lessons along the way, so that not any other problem that we have in the future is not going to seem as big. We can't really act effectively on each property unless we, risk assess each property, and then also have a chat with each client to decide where their head is at and come to some sort of mutual agreement as to how we're going to move forward. Let's aim to not make a loss on your property. Let's aim to not make a loss on our business. And we have promised to our clients that if we don't make a loss as a business over this period, we will reduce our management fees in line with that. I feel like as a management company, we've not only got a responsibility to ourselves personally, our business, but also we have a responsibility to all the properties that are on our books, all of our clients that we have, and all the people like maintenance men, cleaners and tradesmen that work with us, that I want to make sure still work with us at the end of it when we get that pot of gold at the end. I do think that there is a bit of a pot of gold at the end of this. However, it will be the people that do think strategically and do plan and do take their businesses seriously, because if you're the ostrich that sticks its head in the sand, then you won't come out at the end of it in the way that you should do.
On the first in the Pocket Mastermind podcast investing series, we spoke with Grant Hutchby from property investment and management company KG Inspired Property. KG Inspired Property operate predominantly in the serviced accommodation sector, which has been significantly impacted by the lockdown restrictions related to COVID-19. We hear about the impacts the lockdown is having on Grant and his business, and the measures being taken to minimise the losses to ensure survival not only of KG Inspired Property, but their clients and suppliers too. You can find out more and get in contact with Grant at kginspiredproperty.com. Grant, welcome to the Pocket Mastermind podcast. How you doing?
I'm good. You?
Yeah, really good. Really good. So tell us a bit about KG Inspired Property, and then let's talk a bit about how you've been impacted by the current COVID-19 situation.
So KG Inspired Property, the core part of our business is basically short-term accommodation. I guess probably the best way to describe it to anyone that doesn't understand exactly what that is pretty much holiday lets. So operating via platforms like Airbnb, Booking.com, Expedia, TripAdvisor. Not all of our bookings come from there. I mean, we do get quite a good amount of direct bookings. But that's basically what the core of our business does. But we are heavily involved in property, so we source properties for clients and investors, and we also purchase and lease properties as well. So anything to do with property really is how we function, but the core of our business is short-term accommodation.
How long have you been up and running with that?
Well, the business was established February 2018, while both my wife and myself were both still in full-time work. We grew the business to a level to where my wife could leave her job and run the business. And she grew the business to a level September-ish last year where I could leave my job. And then we both focused on the business from there.
And where are you primarily based?
We're primarily based in Swansea, but also operate in other areas of South Wales as well. So South Wales, really.
So I'd imagine that with all of the fun and games going on at the moment, it's presented a number of challenges for you guys. Can you talk us through, kind of when you started to realise the impact that all this was starting to have, and kind of what the result has been for you as it stands?
Yeah, so obviously as a short-term accommodation business, it gets to a certain point in the year and your, I guess, bookings and things like that pick up quite dramatically. And we'd just been through what I'd call our down season. I mean, we don't do too badly over the down season, but it is a down season. And we look forward to sort of April to September of having, good profits within the business, which was the case last year. However, a couple Sundays ago, things started to go a bit pear-shaped. Obviously,
and you can pinpoint it. It was that kind of that specific, really, kind of down to a particular day where it really changed.
Just looking at my calendar right now, if I go back, it was Sunday the 15th of March. That afternoon, we noticed cancellations starting to come in. Yeah, and Monday, loads more came in, and literally over that week, virtually all of our summer bookings that we'd had in place had cancelled.
Wow.
And it started to, from that Sunday, we started thinking a little bit more strategically about, if all of our bookings go, if we don't have any leisure customers and people can't work as much as they normally would be able to, what situation does that put us in? And how can we, rather than, I guess, maximize profit in what would be a peak season for us, is how can we get through this with minimal losses? And actually thinking about that as an objective. So rather than having a profit margin that we want to achieve for our peak season, having an objective of, not losing any money, changing that objective absolutely flipped our strategy on its head. So we would normally take, big bookings that were only maybe 3 nights. So like we could get a booking over a Friday, Saturday, Sunday and take £700-800 on the booking. And get a few of those in a month and your property's doing really, really well. Whereas we've had to change it because of the type of customer that we're now getting. So instead of getting a customer that wants to come to the area to explore and have a holiday, so to speak, and potentially work in the area, we would get people working in the area over the summer as well. But it's more flipped to supporting key workers that need to support the pandemic, people that are still working on specific sites that can't shut down, that might need to keep going. They are very few and far between, but there's still a couple up and running. Anyone that works for services that wants to separate themselves from family members, because actually people that are still working in the area, they want to separate themselves from their own family because they're at more risk of catching something. So all of our bookings that we're getting at the moment, not only a lot cheaper, but they're a lot longer as well. And we're having to really rethink our target market during this time, and also, what that target market are prepared to spend. Because if we don't lower our prices to a level that's going to suit them, then they're not going to book. They're not even going to stay, because they're not people with tons and tons of money, unless it's going to be government funded, which it isn't currently. There's no way that we can charge. And actually going out there with a message of, we're looking to support people, we can't be making a profit, because who's going to buy into that? Who's going to buy into make loads of money during the time where everyone else isn't making any money? So we're having to go out with a strategy of all of our prices are non-profit. So, you know, we've even, you know, we put out an advert that didn't say that, and we got a lot of stick from people on Facebook and things like that. So that gave us, that gave us the sort of notion to go, you know, be really clear about, we're here to support. We're not looking to make money. We're just here to cover costs. And literally anyone that wants to stay, because our type of properties are the only properties that would be suited for people that want to stay in there for a short period of time. Because you can't go and get a 6-month contract with an unfurnished property if you want to stay there for a couple of months while you're supporting the pandemic.
No, this is true.
It's just not going to work. So because our properties are the only ones there to support, we want to show our support by making no profit.
Yeah.
And that's the only strategy that we can see at the moment to, I guess, hit that objective of not losing money.
Yeah. And has the route to finding the customers, has that changed? Are you seeing bookings come through from different routes? Is it still quite heavily Airbnb, Booking.com, the traditional routes, or are you seeing something else change?
Yes and no. So yes, we are getting bookings through Airbnb and Booking.com, but what we've done is we've kept our pricing the same for anyone that's booking less than 7 nights.
Yeah.
Anyone that's booking 7 nights or more, between 7 nights and 30 nights, there's a certain level of discount that they get.
Right.
And then anything that's 30 nights plus, it's another discount on top of that they get. So I guess we are still getting bookings from there, but our strategy has changed with regards to our pricing. So we're attracting more longer term bookings, but we are getting people. I mean, even today, we've potentially secured, you know, a booking that might be for a couple of months with prison staff. You know, so what we're starting to learn, because we're changing our pricing slightly, we're actually starting to learn what other type of customers there are out there, and how we potentially could, when we are having a down season, because this is like a bad down season. This is how we're viewing it. It's like a bad down season, but it's also allowing us to see that when we've got properties in the down season that might not be performing as well, how we could flip our strategy on those properties so that they don't lose money over the down season. So we're really trying to use this as an opportunity to learn about our business, learn about what's out there, so that we come out of the other side losing as little money as possible. And learning some big lessons along the way, so that not any other problem that we have in the future is not going to seem as big.
It's clever. I mean, how long did it take you to kind of really get that new strategy underway from, you say, that Sunday the 15th? I suppose that week was probably a bit of a, holy cow, what are we going to do about this kind of thing? And then how quick did you manage to turn it around?
Well, I guess turning it around, it would suggest that we're doing well at this moment in time. I just want to make it clear we're still clutching at straws in every single place we can get them from. But we are getting some small successes, which is good to see.
Nice.
It's about testing different areas, but you know, the approach that we took was not to literally go gung-ho on everything straight away. The approach that we took was to sit back, see what's happening, right, so that we could understand, you know, how bad this is potentially going to be, and assess that first. Then look at, I guess, what risk our portfolio is in. So each property is different. Each property is different sizes, different locations. Even, you know, we're in Swansea, but there's different parts of Swansea, and looking at those, how that property has performed for the last few months as well. So we're sort of trying to risk profile not only each property itself, but risk profile each client that I guess operates those properties, because we're in theory a management company, so we support our clients to make money from their property. And while we've got properties ourselves, that's not what our whole portfolio is based around. So we had to do that, and we can't really act effectively on each property unless we, risk assess each property and then also have a chat with each client to decide where their head is at and come to some sort of mutual agreement as to how we're going to move forward. Now, don't get me wrong, we had a good platform of ideas on how we were going to turn it around or how we were going to get some more bookings in so that people could break even. But just by talking to each client, so I opened up my calendar to everyone so that they could all book in for a call. We could have a half an hour conversation with every single one of our clients on that week to really decide on how we're going to move forward. And yes, the majority of them were like, yeah, really like your plan, let's go forward. But actually a couple of them, speaking to them, they had, some good nuggets of ideas that we could use, connections in different places that we weren't aware of. And just from those little things have opened up other doors of opportunity, which I guess that week was spent, planning, assessing, and deciding on how we were going to move forward. We obviously made adjustments, on our pricing platforms that week, and that helped. But it was really the planning side of it that we did that week. And once we'd spoken to everyone, that's when we decided to take a little bit more action on how we were going to, I guess, survive however long this is going to last for. Trying to figure out what support the government are providing for people in a similar situation to us. And then educating our clients as to how they can get their hands on that support. Because as a management company that has a portfolio of, let's say, we've got 35 properties at this moment on our books, we want to know when we get to the other side, how many of those 35 properties are going to still be left on our books so that we know what position our business is going to be in. I mean, we know financially that we're able to support the properties that we have personally, but we've got some clients that are, in terms of finances, potentially, that they're on their last legs. They're self-employed, they've over leveraged themselves, and they were relying on these 6 months of peak season to bring them in that dollar that it brought them in last year. And
I think that's a fairly common theme in the sector as well, isn't it? Being that it's a revenue generating sector, as a lot of people relying on that revenue as their income to service, lending and various other things. So I think it's been
especially if
felt.
Especially if you've got a sort of holiday market as your target customer. If your target customer is very leisure based, you're going to be much harder hit than probably a company like ours, which is more contractor based. We're lucky that we still do have contractors coming in, albeit very few and far between at the moment, but they are still coming in. And we're lucky that was our target market. But like everyone across the industry at the moment in short-term stays, I think there is going to be some sort of green light with regards to the NHS and government funding. We were in talks locally with our local hospital and people that work for the NHS locally, and we've made some inquiries, and everything's been, with what we're doing, everything's been brought in centrally. So there's one central contact for the whole of the UK now. And we're in talks with them, and I'm assuming that's because there is a need for it, and they want to assess it as a country, as opposed to letting each local place deal with it, which makes sense, to be honest.
Otherwise, it'd be chaos, wouldn't it? There'd be different policies all over the place, and you can imagine imagine landlords and agents like yourselves who probably manage across different areas. If there was different policies all over the place, it'd be a nightmare for everybody to manage.
So hopefully something comes off the back of that. But we just need to make sure that we're doing absolutely everything we can to support our clients. We've made the promise to all of our clients that our goal as a business, our management company goal, is the same as our goal for their property, which is to not make a loss. So the aim of the game is let's aim to not make a loss on your property. Let's aim to not make a loss on our business. And we have promised to our clients that if we don't make a loss as a business over this period, we will reduce our management fees in line with that, so that they can make the saving potentially on properties that have made a loss. So if overall our management company breaks even or makes a slight profit, we're going to pass on that profit to our clients.
Nice.
Because I think everyone should be in the same boat. Because everyone at the moment is trying to get through this with the minimal amount of damage.
Exactly.
So it's about damage limitation, not making money.
Yeah.
So if we're making money, we want to pass that on to our clients, which I think is the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think it's a great sentiment. I think I put a post out last week, I think, on LinkedIn, trying to encourage people, you know, where they have things like gym memberships, to try and, particularly if they're small independent gyms, try and keep paying for that if you're financially able to, because otherwise if everyone pulls out, then you won't have a gym to go back to. And likewise, if you take all the pie from your clients, you won't have any clients to work with when this is all through. So I think it's very, very sensible business.
Yeah, I mean, we've had to have, you know, we've had to have conversations with people that we work with, like cleaners and maintenance men, and, you know, be forthcoming and say, look, this is a time where, you know, we still do have work for you. It's going to be reduced down. But, you know, if you want that work, it needs to be reasonably priced. It's not about squeezing every little thing out of every job that you get given. You know, if that means reducing your prices or doing what you need to do, you know, we've got our budgets are a lot more squeezed than they have been in the past. And that's what we're working towards at the moment. I mean, also our costs. So we've had a number of challenges where on the day after the lockdown, our storage company closed. And basically Kay had to plead with them to let us into our storage unit to empty it. So our office in our back garden that I nicely kitted out to have my desk and a monitor, and that's why I'm sitting in my living room now and not in my office, is because the office is now the storage unit to get through this time. And also our linen company, they shut down operation for anyone apart from their care homes and people that are in vulnerable situations. So we've got in our shed a whole shed load of
literally a shed load
dirty linen, literally a shed load of dirty linen that we've got a local laundrette that is willing to clean it for us if we need them to.
Nice.
But I think one strategy that we've used is, with our lower prices to cover costs, we're also saying to people staying there that, you know, we can only provide, you know, a very minimal amount of stuff like a roll of toilet paper to get them going. There won't be any replenishment of teas, coffees and soap and stuff like that. Bring that with you. And because of the restriction on the linen, a lot of people that are booking at very cheap prices are local people, and we're encouraging them to bring their own linen with them, because they get that there. We say you can have anything that's in the house at the moment because there are beds already made up. You can use that, no problem, but we're not refreshing stuff because, you know, we've got a minimal supply of everything, and because our linen company isn't delivering to us, we're just trying to figure out ways that we can massively reduce down our operating costs, not only for ourselves but for our clients. So, you know, the cost of changing a bed is £5. So if we don't change a bed on a 8-bed property, that's 40 quid per changeover that someone saved. Which we have to think about all these tiny little things, because as you go through, they can all add up. And if you're making a loss of 200 quid because, you know, you've used loads of linen and loads of consumables, we could have saved that if we'd have thought a little bit more strategically.
And how are you now managing the kind of the checkouts and the turnarounds, and how has that evolved from what you were doing before?
Yeah, so because we're getting obviously more long-term bookings, so our weekly bookings are 2 weekly bookings and our monthly bookings are increasing. So but obviously we're doing it at much cheaper prices. But because people are booking for longer periods, they're doing it a little bit more in advance, which is actually allowing us to plan for costs. So what we're saying to people is we're saying, right, do you need linen, yes or no? Okay, if it's a yes, because they're coming from somewhere else, or they just physically can't bring the linen with them, then we make up the beds that they need. So if it's a couple staying in a house, we make up double bed. That's it. Everything's stripped. Yeah. And when our cleaners are going in, they're taking off all the clean linen, folding it back up, bringing it back here so that we've got stuff ready to go. We're trying to be really conscious of cleaning products that we're using, making sure that the cleaners are focusing more on the cleaning rather than how many, changing beds and things like that. So we're just getting all the beds stripped, and then when we get a booking in, it's how many beds need to be made up, which I think is the most important thing, because it will allow us to reduce costs. Because if someone's in a room with 2 single beds and one of the single beds they use, and they chuck all their stuff on the other bed, right?
You're cleaning a bed for something that has been used.
That's wasted linen at the end of the day. And generally we can absorb that sort of cost because our bookings are very last minute, and we can't afford to send a cleaner in for £15 an hour to make up a bed when we weren't expecting someone. So we're actually better off when we're making that money just making up all the beds. But in this situation, we're actually better off not making up all the beds and just making up the ones that people need.
And are you finding that you're needing to be more hands-on than you were beforehand with making up the houses, the beds, whatever? Is that something you're going to kind of had to take on a bit more yourselves?
What I guess Kay's turned into a little bit of a laundrette. So Kay is very much the operational side of things. I guess the one thing that works good in our partnership is our personalities are quite different. Our values are the same, but our personalities are quite different. So Kay is extremely good at all the operational side of the business, whereas my sort of part falls into more of the planning and strategic side. So a lot of my time, and this is where I've had to, step up a little bit. A lot of my time is basically figuring out how we're going to price things up, how we're going to go out and market the properties, how we're going to support our clients. Like Monday and Tuesday next week, all day is spent speaking to clients and updating them on where we are. I haven't spoken to these clients this much for months and months and months. So, I think staying close to what their situation is and helping them understand what our situation is on a regular basis is really important, because the last thing I want is them sitting there thinking, have I got anything? Have I got any bookings? I'm worried. What's my investment looking like? And so I'm staying very, very close to the numbers and the performance, and a lot more than I normally would. So that's sort of how my time has been done. But yeah, Kay's time definitely, our washing machine and dryer are currently going right now. And I think they've been constantly going for the last few days, because, while we're actually fine on bed sheets and things like that, but bath mats and hand towels, they started running out. So Kay was like, well, it's not a massive load, so I'll do it. So, she's stepping in. We're not doing any of the cleaning because, we also, it's, not strange, but we want to make sure that we still have cleaning teams at the end of it.
Exactly.
Because they've massively suffered. So what we've said is, because you're not making up beds anymore, you're just stripping them. When you go in to clean, we expect the clean to be half an hour less than it normally would do. So we're reducing costs that way, but they're still getting business. And I don't want us running around doing cleans just to save costs. I want to make sure that we, look after all of our cleaning teams so that they get to the end of it and are still with us, as opposed to thinking, do you know what, I'm going to jack this small business in and go back and work in Asda, because they're the only people hiring at the moment.
Exactly.
So, I feel like as a management company, we've not only got a responsibility to ourselves personally, our business,
Mm-hmm.
but also we have a responsibility to all the properties that are on our books, all of our clients that we have, and all the people like maintenance men, cleaners, and tradesmen that work with us, that I want to make sure still work with us at the end of it when we get that pot of gold at the end. Because this is a bit of a message to other people that are doing what we do, or even other people that are relying on business that isn't here at the moment. If you can survive this and you can get through it with the most minimal amount of damage, I guarantee you, when we do get to the other side and things do start to pick up, people's moods will be in such a different place. Like, I guarantee you, people will be let out of their houses to go and do what they want before they're allowed to get in a plane and go to another country. So all those people that were going to get in a plane and go to another country this summer, were probably going to do something in the UK, right? And to all you guys out there that are relying on people coming to do stuff in your areas, that will happen before people fly abroad. So that is definitely something to look forward to. Nothing is permanent; it will be temporary. The only thing we can't define is how long it's going to be for.
That's the hard bit, isn't it? It's the unknown of how long this could go on for. Is it weeks? Is it months? And kind of planning the strategy accordingly for the potential infinite outcomes, I guess, is the difficult bit.
I guess we've planned for the worst, and focus on the best. So if you've got a plan in place that's going to get you through the worst this could be, and then you focus on getting the absolute best result, then you can only get the absolute best out of it, I guess.
Exactly.
If you're so focused on if you're all the time focused on minimizing damage, and you're not planning for it to be, I don't know, 6 months or 3 months or whatever that's going to be, you're only planning for 1 or 2 months, then you're going to find yourself disappointed. Because at the end of the day, this could last a few months. It could last longer. You never know.
No one knows at the moment.
No one knows. But I guess if you're planning for what you think would be the worst case scenario, then you're going to put yourself in the best possible position.
Is there have you looked at any possible ways that you can side revenue from linked to what you guys are doing, even whether it be now or as the obviously there will be an upturn at some point, like you say, nothing does last forever. Have you looked at any ideas of where you think that you could find something else, or that you might be able to share with anybody?
I guess it's very difficult to find other streams of income in a time like this. The only thing that you potentially could do is offer your support out to people, but it's not really the time to start charging for that support. In terms of revenue, I guess this is a massive opportunity for businesses to that are in a position to support people to build a brand for themselves. Because if someone comes out that is in a position to be able to support people and goes and helps a bunch of people get through this time, when people get through to the other side, I guarantee you they're going to be singing that person's or that company's praises for helping them get through. So I think this is a massive opportunity to, build brand. I know for a fact that if a load of people that are local in Swansea stay with us, that is going to raise our brand in the local area massively. While we're not, I guess, earning off of that, actually the opposite. We're not making any money from it whatsoever. Actually, I think that's going to help our brand moving forward, and probably in the long term help our business.
I think you're right. I think now is a time you can really make or break. You see some businesses have really stood up and they've stood out, and others some of the usual suspects possibly not so supportive of their employees or probably suppliers and all the rest of it. And I think you're absolutely right. And now, whilst everyone's so used to how do we maximize profit, I think the mindset of almost what the Warren Buffett mindset of don't lose money is absolutely the way you got to be thinking about this right now.
you know, that's quite funny. You just reminded me of something that I thought about on that day. So on the 15th of March, when all these bookings started cancelling off, the thing that popped into my head was this blooming quote from Warren Buffett saying, rule number one, don't lose money. Rule number two, read rule number one. And that was that moment that I said to myself, or we said to ourselves, that's our goal. Let's not lose money. So, you know, if we end up, and I'd say not lose money is a pretty hefty goal at this moment in time, if it's going to last a few months, you know. So when you say to yourself, you know, set yourself high targets at this moment in time, I'd say not losing any money is a high target, because if we come out at the end of it and we don't lose too much, that's still a good result.
Yeah. I think particularly for across the entire kind of service industry, look at pubs, restaurants. I mean, at least the good thing for you is, as difficult as it is, you have the opportunity to pivot. If you're running a pub, you've got no opportunity, right? You're closed. I mean, I've seen some takeaways for food, but if you're a pub like my local, that's a wet pub, doors are shut.
Nothing.
And they're shut until someone tells you can open them again. It's so challenging, and I'm seeing a lot of my contacts who own and run businesses and even employees, at this time, suddenly revenue streams have been taken away. So for me, as part of all of this, the purpose of starting the Pocket Mastermind in the first place was to be helping people, and now is the one thing I have is available is time, and anything that we can do. And speaking to you today, I want to hopefully we can give some confidence to other people that are in your position, and inspire them to keep going, because like you say, nothing lasts forever. And as to quote Jim Rohn, spring always follows winter, right?
It does. Spring always does follow winter. Never changes. It's been like that for 6,000 years.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I do think that there is a bit of a pot of gold at the end of this. However, it will be the people that do think strategically and do plan and do take their businesses seriously, because if you're the ostrich that sticks its head in the sand, then you won't come out at the end of it in the way that you should do. And I think if people don't plan for stuff, it will end up them being coming out of the market, and that will happen. There will be people that don't plan. And for people like myself, I feel like when we get to the other side, not only is there going to be a decrease in supply because of the people that didn't think about it strategically and dropped out of the market, but there's also going to be an increase in demand, because when spring does happen, so to speak, everyone's confidence goes up. It's like a euphoria, isn't it? And the demand will be much better, and when demand outweighs supply, that's when prices increase. And that's what we're looking forward to.
And I think you're right. I think it could be a while before people are suddenly flying off on aeroplanes, and we could see a bit of a resurgence on the staycation, as it were, and more people staying around here. And I think that's great for everybody. I think it'd be a massive benefit for obviously people in your position and in your section of the industry, but the restaurants, the bars, the hotels, everyone hopefully will see some uptick from the aftermath of this, at least. Yeah.
And I'm a true believer of everything happens for a reason. And I guess the world itself, the world in general, moves at such a fast pace. We all move at such a fast pace, and for the last 4 days, we've got a sort of a hill / mountain next to where we live, and for the last 4 days, we've walked up to the top of it every morning with our dog. And I can't remember the last time I walked up that hill. And actually it's quite refreshing to do stuff like that, instead of thinking, right, I've got to go and do this, I've got to go and do that, I've got to go to this place, then that place, then something else. and actually the world slowing down a little
Mm-hmm.
bit is probably very good for everyone, because it will allow you to sort of take stock of where you were at, as opposed to just running around like a headless chicken all the time.
That's the thing. I think you got to find the opportunity in every challenge, and obviously that's easier for some than others, depending on your current situation and whatever you've done before. But I think I know you've always been big into personal development and pushing yourself. What advice would you give to anybody who's kind of found themselves with time on their hands at home at the moment?
If you've got time on your hands, the absolute best thing you can do is educate yourself on something that gets you going. That I found it so funny when Netflix said that they were reducing down their quality
Mm-hmm.
of video so that people could still watch it, which obviously showed how much of an increase of people watching Netflix was. So I
Concerning,
guess
isn't it?
a little bit of a message is turn off Netflix
Yeah.
and open up a book
Yeah.
or an audio, and listen to something that's going to give you something for the future, because we're not going to get this time again.
Mm.
And the only thing that you can't get back is time. You can always make more money, right?
Yeah.
When this is over, you can always go and make more money. However, you can never, ever get this time back. So, if you've got you can't go out and about and see other members of your family, but if you're not on your own and you've got family members in the house and you've got your kids there, or whatever that is, make sure you spend time doing stuff with them, not always sat in front of Netflix. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've watched a little bit more Netflix, but I was never the type of person to watch much telly anyways. So I'm not going to hide the fact that maybe Netflix has been on a little bit more, but make a conscious effort to, I guess, do something a little bit more active, and educate yourself on something, because there's an opportunity to do it. Definitely.
I agree.
That's
I think
probably the one thing.
I think whatever we all decide to do in this next few months will probably define what the next 10 or 20 years look for all of us individually. I think if you spend the time playing PS4 and Netflix, you got to accept that you might be a passenger with the whatever the new world looks like when we come out the other side of this. So I'd agree. I completely encourage everybody to spend a bit of time thinking about what do they want in going forward from now. Do they want to get involved with property? Do they want to start a business? Do they just want a career change? Start planning for that now.
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone needs to think about what they're going to do now and how that's going to potentially affect their future. But yeah, you can never get the time back, so use this time wisely, because we don't ever get this time. And do you know what? This is going to be a mark in history.
Yeah.
Like actually,
one of
we're
the
going to
big
get
events.
we're going to get to 10 years down the line, and it's going to be, I lived through that.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's quite possible this will be talked about for hundreds of years, like the Black Death and various other plagues and wars and all of these kind of things. It's massive. I mean, the scale of this thing is probably bigger than anyone's ever seen.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
And so that means, I mean, part of that also links to the fact that no one's alone in this thing, that everybody is affected, which is a rare thing, right? Even in wars and stuff, they tend to happen in far off remote places, and we're all very much detached. I think this is the important thing to know with this, is it is affecting every single person, and it's important that we all do our best to consider everybody else during this, and helping other people with business, like you say, cutting your costs but cutting expectations at the same time, and sharing the pie.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's really surreal. I mean, I'm half American, and I spoke to my family the other night, and it was really surreal, because we're sitting there 3,000 miles apart. One, obviously able to video chat with each other, which is cool in itself, being 3,000 miles apart, which you weren't able to do really 10 years ago.
No.
But they're in exactly the same situation as us. 3,000 miles apart, on a lockdown, not able to go anywhere, kids running around in the background screaming their heads off. right?
It's
It's trying to stock their shelves so that, you know, that they can survive.
They ran out
apocalypse.
of toilet paper as well.
Yeah, they've run out of toilet paper. Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy. And that being 3,000 miles apart, being exactly the same situation, just goes to show how, I guess, we need to respect the situation that we're in, learn from the situation that we're in, and use the time that we've got to make ourselves a better future. And I think that is probably the best message that I can give anyone. But we're never gonna do everything perfectly. We're never gonna do everything right. It's all about making sure that you focus on forwards as opposed to backwards.
Yeah.
You know, don't think about, you know, your situation before and how, you know, if it was better, now would be better. Think forward, because I've got a lot of people that are sitting there thinking, oh, I wish I hadn't done this. I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I hadn't bought this, so I had this money to get me through it. Don't think about that. You did that. That was your choice to make.
Exactly.
If you're not looking forward at what you can do moving forward, then you'll always be looking back, and that's the wrong place to be.
Any other tips for anybody else operating in the service accommodation sector like you? Whether there's any groups that people could become, you know, join, Facebook, obviously all property meetups and those kind of things are now being held online. I've been on a few, and any that you'd recommend that people, just where people might be able to go and get some support and guidance, would be useful, I guess.
Yeah, I think you know, Facebook can sometimes be quite a funny place. You know, it can have a lot of negativity on there, but I think in a time like this where we can only meet people virtually, it's a great platform to use. I'm part of a group, or me and Kay are part of a group called the Serviced Accommodation podcast, run by some really, really good guys. We're part of their team. You know, we coach for their programs. And, you know, the amount of support that these guys have offered our businesses and everyone that they work with has been astronomical. So, brilliant. You know, if you're in a very similar business to what we're in, I'd very highly recommend, you know, joining that group, the Serviced Accommodation podcast. There is the Serviced Accommodation Network, which has, you know, thousands of people on. And, you know, that's run by a couple people that I would say, you know, are offering good advice to people in our situation. The main thing is don't hide away. You know, reach out. You know, I'm happy for people to reach out to me. You know, I do have some extra time on my hands. So if you want to look me up on Facebook, I normally do open up my calendar, you know, a couple times a week, and I'd be happy to do half an hour calls with people just to give a bit of direction. I mean, even our accountant, he's got a number of people on his books that do what we do, and they're thinking about shutting shop. So I just basically said to him, I said, look, if you want to give my details out to any of your clients to help save them from shutting shop, then I'm happy to give out that advice. You know, I'm not obviously going to sit there for hours and hours and hours with one person, because, you know, that wouldn't be best spent of my time. But you know, if someone just needs a little nugget of information or a little point in the right direction, then I'll be happy to offer that out.
We'll make sure that we put links to your profile once we release this in the next few days.
Cool, no problem.
Brilliant. It's been amazing talking to you.
Yes, no worries. Thanks, Dave. And hopefully we'll get some traction with it, and it'll be interesting to see when it's all up and running and live.
Yeah. So and we'll check back in over the course of the next few months and see how things are going, and anything that you feel that would be useful to share. We'd love to help you get that message out as well.
Wicked. No worries. Cheers, mate.
Awesome. Cheers, mate. If you enjoyed this episode of the Pocket Mastermind podcast, please like and share to help us reach more people. And remember to follow us on all social media channels. You can hear more Pocket Mastermind podcasts at pocketmastermind.com. And if you're operating in the service accommodation sector and would like to get in touch and learn more from Grant, you can reach him at kginspiredproperty.com. Until the next episode, thank you for listening.